morning and welcome to this Council's first meeting of the Castle Douglas Common Good Fund Subcommittee. I would like to let you know at this point that the subcommittee meeting will be live streamed and recorded on Teams, and that this recording will be available online shortly after the meeting. So if we move to the appointment of a chair, if we could have nominations for the chair.
Thank you, Sean. Councillor Howie did a brilliant job with the previous 5 years, and I would nominate him to continue as chair of Castle Douglas Common Good.
Thank you, John. And seconded by?
Yeah, I would like to second that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. So I'd like to now pass on the meeting to yourself, Chair.
I will graciously accept. Right. Okay, moving on to the next appointment of chair. We've done item 2, settlement apologies and chair's approval for members' remote participation. We have no apologies apart from the community representative, Community Councillor Martin Fortnum, but who has given a written response. So we don't have any remote participation either. Words. Declarations of interest, members. Any declarations? Nope, no indication for that. Okay, moving on to item 4. Castle Douglas Common Good Fund, proposed grant criteria, report by the Director of Communities. Sean, do you want to take us through this, please?
Certainly, Chair. So this is a report that provides members with a proposed grant criteria for the year 22-23 for applications to this Common Good Fund Subcommittee. So if members could note the grant criteria used in the previous year, 21-22, by this committee for considering applications as detailed in Appendix 1. And then to agree the grant criteria for year 22-23 applications to the Castle Douglas Common Good Fund Committee as detailed in Appendix 1, and the boundary map of the Castle Douglas Borough. And we've got the map for the borough for reference there for members.
I'm just wondering, looking at the map, it seems to be out of date. I request that we look at, you see that it certainly looks like about a 1950s map, and there's part of the scheme up by the new health centre doesn't appear to be included within the boundary. And I think certainly we should, my view was that we should extend the boundary to include that, and I believe I can't see anything for Whitelaw Avenue either is going out the Dalbeatty Road. So I think these should be included within the common good, and we should extend the boundary to accommodate that.
Thanks, Chair. On the first point, I'll certainly look to the map being updated to reflect, a kind of better satellite view, if you like. And the second point about the borough line being extended, because it's a historical royal borough, I don't know the legalities of that, so I'll need to seek guidance from governance and come back to you on that one.
Thank you, Chair. I fully agree with you. It's interesting to see the old railway line still in operation in this map.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. It was just to ask, and this is a bit of a controversial question, I suppose, on page 7, 3.1, items not eligible for funding include fireworks and lanterns for events. Are people able to apply for the common good in Castle Douglas for Christmas lighting or not? Can be controversial, I know, in other regions and areas, but we have got a bit of a sticking point in Castle Douglas whilst we're looking for funding, and I know there's been some fundraising through the post office, and I just wondered if there was a group set up, if they would be allowed to apply. I think the answer is probably no, but I just wanted that clarified today. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Chair.
My understanding was from the Stewardship Area Committee that we do not fund street lightings. Whether that impacts on common good may be separate, because as Sean pointed out, we're actually a subgroup of full council as opposed to the area committee. Whether that's something we wish to consider at some stage, I suppose it all depends what funding we have available at any particular time.
That's great. Thanks for clarifying. Thanks, Chair. Could I just ask another question? With regards to applying for Council Douglas Common Good, is it quite clear somewhere online that there's a timing plan for groups that can apply as the year goes by? Is there somewhere that they have accessibility to find that information? Thanks.
It is. The application is open all year round. So there's no closing date unless members, set one. So it's really just until the funds have been exhausted, or but certainly I would let local groups be aware of the fund, and we do a lot of kind of promotion of local grants anyway. So yeah, keep that in mind. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Right, are we happy to note recommendation 2.1? Is that right?
Happy to note.
Yeah. And happy to agree the criteria as outlined in 2.2 with the inclusion of a review of the boundary as discussed.
Happy to agree.
John?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering how knowledgeable members of the public in Castle Douglas and how aware they are of the potential of obtaining funding from Castle Douglas Common Good, or even what consists of the properties which come under the umbrella of Castle Douglas Common Good. And I wonder if for the next Common Good meeting, if we could have a couple of things. First of all, a clear description of what is owned by Castle Douglas Common Good. And would it be possible, would this be the correct stage to get a clear financial statement of the assets and the liabilities for Castle Douglas Common Good? And finally, if I'm not pushing my luck, can we have a statement on the property that either has been sold or is up for sale or is awaiting sale? Can we have an update on these properties, please, for the next meeting of Castle Douglas Common Good?
Thanks, Councillor Young. Absolutely. Our property services are currently working, updating the assets list, so can certainly approach them to see how they're getting on with that. I can certainly give you what we've got at the moment, and then just how far they're getting on with that work. For the financial outturn report, that will be forthcoming to the next committee meeting, so there'll be a full and detailed report on that one. And with the updating the properties, I can certainly request that there's an update from Property Services on the status of all properties, including the sales for the next meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for that, Sean. I would like to endorse what Councillor Young has said there. I think it's really important for the communities within Castle Douglas to have a bit more detail going forward, which, as you've alluded to, should be quite simple. I'd also like to ask if it would be possible at some stage if we could have the company who is managing the portfolio, just so that we can see how the investments are performing. If that is something that's able to be done, I think we'd be most grateful, and so would the community. So your consideration of that would be great. Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Drysdale. Certainly, I'll try and get as much detail from our finance colleagues as possible on what money comes in, what money goes out, and just exactly who's responsible for the interest and so forth. So, yeah, happy to do that.
Very good. So, noted 2.1 and we've agreed 2.2. So, moving on to agenda item 5. Castle Douglas Common Good Fund applications for financial assistance. Recommendations. Members are asked to note that projected free income available for the Castle Douglas Common Good Fund is 6,107 as detailed in paragraph 3.8. 2.2. Consider the recommendations and agree whether to make an award to the applicants for financial assistance as detailed in paragraph 3.9 Appendix 2. We just go through these applications one at a time. Sean, if you want to take us through them, please.
Certainly, Chair. We have a summary. Sorry.
Thank you. Chair, could I come in? I would like to know what the definition of the free income is, £6,107. I would presume it's rental for properties plus return on investments, but this is why we need a full financial report to know how that figure of £6,107 is actually generated, because my understanding is the rental of the property alone by Galloway Glens is virtually that figure.
Very good, but I don't think it should affect our deliberations today on the matters in front of us.
Yeah, so the applications here today, we have an applicant from the Castle Douglas Play Park, and they are developing an inclusive play park, as members know, on the site of the largest existing play park of Lochside Park, and working with our community assets colleagues, and after some extensive consultation with the community over the past couple of years, they're now looking to move forward, with the project and their aims. So today they're asking this committee for a contribution to the play equipment and their overall pathways and safe fencing. They also state that they've got a need to create an all-weather sheltered, safe, well-lit seating area for people, both in wheelchairs and buggies and so forth, and parents and carers. And the £5,000, if granted by this committee, would enable the purchase and installation of 2 accessible benches, tables, and a gazebo-style shelter. Also, an application from Archaeology Scotland for the Archaeology Fair. They're looking for a figure of £700 from this committee as a contribution to the fair that's taking place in Castle Douglas. And there'll be entertainment as well as harpists and medieval bagpipers and a small ceilidh band. So this is part of the celebrations of the end of the Can You Dig It project that's been supported with our Galloway Glens Landscape Partnership. And finally, we have an application from the Forward Rotary Club, which is a satellite of the Castle Douglas Rotary, and they're looking for a contribution of £2,500 to their project, and they're currently developing accessible picnic tables and benches at Market Hill, which was the previous location for the Inclusive Play project before it moved down to Carling Walk. So they're quite keen that that park is enhanced for, as that location has moved on. They're doing very well in their fundraising in such a small space of time, I would say. Already commitments, as members can see in the appendix, from other funders, so really making good progress there with their project, and that's all the applications, Chair.
Members' views on these applications? Pauline?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks for the report, Sean. With regards to the Castle Douglas Development Forum, who are now finally moving forward with their projects, should, for any reason, this project be put on hold or not go ahead, can I just have clarification? Will we be able to retain that money? Should we agree it today, the £5,000? Thanks, Sean.
It's certainly within the gift to put gift to members to put conditions on any award. It may be that you know, if you're looking for the actual spend, that the money's released at the actual, you know, dig in the ground kind of thing, spade in the ground sort of thing. So it could be held until such time. It's certainly within the gift of this committee to put a condition on it.
Thank you, Chair, and I would support that recommendation from Councillor Drysdale. I'm wondering why we've got a 75% recommendation. Nowhere in our criteria for making awards do we ask for proof of match funding or an indication that we may not award the full amount. And as we don't have that in our criteria for making awards, I would move that we offer the full amount requested by each of these three organisations.
Yeah, in the application form, Councillor Young, it does ask for match funding, so I think that's why it's listed there in the summary. It's not part of of the subcommittee's criteria as such, but it is asked for in the application forms, and the application forms are quite standard throughout all of the Common Good committees.
But why should it be in the application form if it's not part of our awarding criteria? Surely, if that's part of the criteria, it should be part of the listing in the previous appendix.
Yep, take that on board, Councillor. I think that you know, it's just that kind of trying to capture for the fullest of information to members of where a project is and what kind of financial position they're in. So that members have the fullest of information to make their decision.
I note if we do make the full awards to all three requested, we go beyond the income. What are the consequences to the fund? Because I'm very conscious of the fact that we have reserves and that we have, I don't know what they're bringing back, but I would imagine somewhere in the region of about 3 to 4%. It could be more, but I'm also very aware that inflation's running at 10% anyway. So I'm just wondering about the merits of holding back money which could be spent at a time when inflation's running high to trying to invest it when a return will be considerably less than that inflation figure. But I certainly would like to bring my colleagues in on that for their views. John? Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. As I've previously said, I think the Castle Douglas Common Good should award the full amount requested for each of these organisations. We're not here to build up funds to, we're here to benefit the community, and these three organisations will spend money in a manner that will directly benefit the community. So I'm all for awarding the full amount, especially when apparent that we have further funding coming in from the sale of properties to add to our base amount.
Yes, I would like to support what Councillor Young said, and going back a bit in terms of a little bit more detail on the match funding and evidence of contribution of their own funds just being a bit more clear to this committee. But yes, in essence, I absolutely agree. I would second what Councillor Young has said. On another aside, I would like to say that all these groups are forward thinking in terms of the subsequent events post-COVID, in that there's a lot more activity taking place outside, and people do need covered areas and seating areas and accessible areas for disabled people. We are seeing across the whole of the UK outdoor areas being utilised to a much higher degree, and therefore projects that will help encompass the ability for people to move around, have picnics outside and live a better quality of life must be encouraged. So I would second what Councillor Young has said earlier in the meeting. Thanks, Chair.
Now, I'm aware that the Community Council made representation on these issues, and I think it's only correct that it should be recorded at the meeting. Sean, do you want to bring that forward?
Certainly, just before I do that, on the last points raised and discussed, the groups were kind of pre-warned that if there was, if there wasn't full awards given today, would their projects be dependent? And none came back saying that they were dependent on the, their projects going ahead. So just a bit of clarification around if members were minded today to not award full awards, the projects would, in their words, go ahead. And also on the I suppose dipping into the pot from the free income, we sought advice from finance officers on that one, and there is no penalty for using the overall reserve. So just for clarity on that one, and to the point of our community representative, they would like to report that they're in favour of the award to the Forward Rotary Group, but have issue with the CDDF application and the archaeology fair application. For CDDF application, they feel that the project's been going on for some time now, so they feel that it maybe should have progressed quicker than they have, and that's the reason that they've given there. And for the archaeology fair, they kind of intimated that it might not have direct benefit to the people of the borough for that project. I think now kind of strictly looking at the boundary lines of the borough, and maybe just not seeing the kind of that kind of direct legacy of award. So that was the kind of points raised from our community representative. Yeah.
Thanks for that. They're noted and recorded. For the record, I go along with the motion submitted by Councillor Young, backed by Councillor Drysdale, that we make the awards in full. Okay. Pauline.
Thank you, Chair. I hope it's okay, Sean and Chair, for me to come in on the back of this. I think we're getting a bit of a feeling in the community, both in the communication received today and verbally to us as community councillors, Sean, that it would be great if some of the groups could possibly use different forms of communication, and perhaps that's something we all need to help our groups with. For example, we have a board up at the car park at the top end of the town at the Market Hill for those people who cannot access Facebook and cannot purchase the Galloway News, which, as we know, is a great source of information, but you do need to target press releases and make sure that you're organised. So I don't know if there's a way of us as a group going forward, alongside some help with yourself and the council, Sean, to make sure that these three groups and indeed other groups can also receive communications about the Common Good Fund up at the top board in the car park for the elderly and those people who don't have computer access. I think we just need to make sure that our communication channels are as strong as they can possibly be, and I would welcome any further ideas from my fellow elected members who are always forthcoming in terms of how we could better communicate about the Common Good Fund, because not everybody knows where to look for the information. So it's just to make those points. Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks very much, Sean.
Very good. So we were asked, recommendation 2.1, to note the projected free income available because the was gone good was 6,107. So we've noted that. Consider the recommendations and agree whether to make an award to the applicants for financial assistance as detailed, and we've agreed to make full awards for all three applications. Okay. And as I have no other business at this stage, we're not in a position to set a date for the next meeting as yet. That's something which we'll agree amongst ourselves. So that will lead me to bring this meeting to a close. Thank you.